First question is from Kai Lovecraft. What do you think about plyometrics? How can I incorporate plyometrics and functional training into my routine?
This is right after geometry and algebra. Is that right?
Yeah. I know. It sounds also like a supplement.
I was terrible at this.
I've taken a lot of plyometrics.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, no, you know what's funny? My mind has changed a little bit on this relatively recently, talking to our good friend Joe DeFranco. Mm-hmm. And of course, like anything, right? And this makes perfect sense. Like anything, there's varying degrees of how you can apply it and how hard you do it, right? So like if someone says, what do you think about heavy lifting? Well, heavy lifting is all relative. It depends on the person who's doing it and what the context is. And what might be heavy for my grandmother is obviously going to be very light for me. But challenging the body that way, there's going to be benefits. Same thing with plyometrics. And what he said to me was, which rang totally true, is if you stop training a particular skill, you'll eventually lose that skill. Now, I've experienced that myself.
Yeah, you don't use it, you lose it.
I have. I've experienced it myself where I go to the park and, I'm playing frisbee with my kid and I go to jump and twist and I feel like I'm not moving like I think I could. And it's because I haven't trained jumping or twisting or those type of explosive movements. So plyometrics, from a health standpoint, training them appropriately and properly is to be able to maintain that kind of movement. If you want to be able to, if you miss a step and catch yourself, or if you want to jump off the curb or jump down off of the back of your truck, or you want to reach up and grab something real quick because someone throws something at you or whatever, plyometrics helps you maintain that ability. Now, from an advanced point of view, plyometrics improves explosive power. And plyometrics activate fast twitch muscle fibers better than almost any other form of training. Now, why is that important? Well, fast twitch muscle fibers are the muscle fibers that grow and build. And so if you're just interested in overall fitness and want to build muscle, so long as it's done appropriately, plyometrics will send a very loud and different signal to the muscles to build and grow.
Well, it's also about maintaining abilities. And I know that not everybody wants to be an athlete. Not everybody wants to be able to move super explosively and sprint on command, or slow down really efficiently and effectively and change directions. But you can take elements of that to your average person and really benefit their lifestyle substantially. So like you give examples of when you're reaching back for a car really quickly to, brace something, or, something falls from a shelf and you have to react like super aggressively. And if your body doesn't recognize how to react in a situation like that, this is just one of those instances where you will suffer the consequences of that. The body's going to have to adjust and react how it's going to adjust, and a lot of times it will get injured as a result because you're neglecting this side of training, which is definitely a component. The other thing to plyometrics to consider, I mean, this is one of those where it's at the pinnacle of your training in terms of like what attributes you're trying to achieve. And so I look at it as, this is sort of like a testing grounds. Like even if it's just like your average person that's been training their way up the rungs to get to a certain point where now if you move explosively, you have to have put in all that groundwork to be able to stabilize and get your body under control as quickly as you're able to explosively move into that position. So it's a good test as well.
I've always thought that plyometrics belong in programming. I just think that they've been poorly done. That's all.
Yeah, no one does them right.
Yeah, sure. I definitely think they belong in. I think they belong in somewhat in everybody's routine. And when you don't, I mean, I experienced. I think I've shared on this podcast at least once or twice the story of me jumping out of the back of my bed of my truck. That was the first kind of rude awakening for myself. That, oh wow, I've really neglected this type of training. I did a lot of it in my 20s. And even like into my early 30s, right before competing really, I became so focused on aesthetics that I completely eliminated plyometrics in my training. It wasn't a goal, it wasn't a focus of mine. And I really didn't see the consequences of that until that day. Like it hadn't registered. I hadn't had a moment or a time. I wasn't playing basketball at the time. I hadn't done anything explosively. That was the first time I had called on my body to do something that I believed I could easily do. And I jumped down from the truck, and I was fine. But boy, it felt like somebody took a baseball bat to my knees, and I was like, "Whoa!" And I was like, well, this is what I get. When was the last time, Adam, you did a, jump off of a box or jump up to a box? And when I thought about it, I was like, man, it's been 5-6 years since I've done something like that. And that inspired me to get back into incorporating it into my training. Now, it doesn't mean that my training all of a sudden turns into this, explosive plyometric circuit-based lifting routine all the time. It just means like, hey, I need to have some jump boxes in there, or where you step down from a jump box and work on the deceleration of the squat or the jump, or some sort of explosive lateral movements with the tube or something like that, because you don't want, like Justin alluded to, you don't want to lose it. If you don't want to lose those abilities on things that you may do in real life, then it belongs in the program. We need to talk about how it's poorly programmed. And the way it's poorly programmed most commonly is people do it to fatigue. And that's not the idea. The idea is that you want to be able to be comfortable. Justin gave the analogy of reaching back to the car real quick, or something falling off a shelf and then being able to react. So when you do that, you don't do that 15 repetitions or 30 repetitions. Like, you do that one time. It happens, and then you have to be able to do it. So that's how you should emulate it in your training. 1 to 3 reps. And there should be plenty of rest in between, and it's all about the movement of it. And then there's prerequisites before you do that. If you can't step up onto a box with beautiful form, you shouldn't jump up onto a box. That should be the first and foremost. You should be able to step up onto a box with good technique, good stability, good form, good control. And then the progression of that is the ability to be able to jump up onto the box with good form. And then when you finally get to that place where you're jumping up onto the box, you don't need to be doing 10 to 15 reps in a circuit-based type of routine or with low rest periods. You do 3 to 5 jump boxes, and you rest in between every rep, and you be very meticulous about how you move and how you land and how you take off. And that's where the emphasis is put when you put it into your program. So yes, I think plyometrics, functional training belongs in everybody's routine, no matter the age. But the way you apply it into there really depends on their level. Have they done the prerequisites to get to that point? And then to make sure, if you're somebody who is not an athlete and it's not a high priority, that you just intermittently introduce it into your routine enough that you don't lose it. Like, that's the 2 common mistakes that I see when you see people talking about or utilizing plyometrics.